What's up, everybody? You're listening to episode 19 of Just Breathing with Laud Lungs. I felt like we needed an extra long breath just to kind of get into this podcast. I'm joined by my wife, Brittany. Once again, if you don't know, we have another video podcast that we started called Just Breathing Home Edition. I've had Brittany on this podcast so much that I was like, why are we not just doing another show? So we are. It's called Just Breathing Home Edition. We do it in our dining room. We talk a lot about family. We talk a lot about home life, about scheduling, and getting on top of your life. So very practical, very good conversations happening over there. So check those episodes out. We have 2 right now that are out. And then this show, Just Breathing with Laud Lungs, is going to be more of an interview show. It's going to be more where we get into each other's lives, and really get to know each other. And you guys will be able to get to know us in that same way. And hopefully we have some interesting conversations along the way. Hopefully. Whew. Yeah, we definitely have plenty to talk about tonight, though. I'm going to say I don't really know exactly where to start tonight. And I'm not saying this I'm going to start here because I just got to get this off my chest. And this is a good place to do that. I've thought of making a video, and I hate social media, especially right now. Social media is most of the time a dumpster fire. Mm-hmm. But right now, I've just had to avoid it just because there's so much division and ignorance. And I say both because sometimes they're together. Sometimes it's just, it's different. Mm-hmm. So if you don't know, yesterday, there was a big protest in Washington, D.C. It was fine for the predominance of the day. And then at one point in the afternoon, a bunch of people rushed into the Capitol building, got in the rotunda, got in some of the senators' offices. It was, it's hard to really even know what to say about it. I haven't really fully processed my feelings towards it. Mm-hmm. And we'll get more into that tonight. One thing that I would like to say and get this off my chest. I'm a little appalled. And that's the nicest word I could say to all of the people who are coming out of the woodworks to denounce the actions of yesterday, but were nowhere to be seen as cities burned this past summer in the Black Lives Matter protests. Mm-hmm. I think both, I'll say this. I can sympathize with both protests that took place. Mm-hmm. I don't even have to agree with either one.
Right.
But I can sympathize that people feel a certain way and they decided to take action at first for yesterday in a nonviolent way and for Black Lives Matter at first in a nonviolent, peaceful way. But then idiots got involved and turned it into something else. And when that happened for the Black Lives Matter protests, people said nothing. Yeah. And I'm not going to speak to everybody. I'm going to speak mostly just because I'm a Christian. And what I've seen is that a lot of Christians stayed silent because they were afraid. They were afraid to be called a racist. They were afraid, I don't even know what of. Just all the stuff that I guess could come out of speaking up during that period of time. But it's totally fine to speak about these people that were protesting yesterday because because they felt like this election was stolen.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, a lot of their claims, a lot of what they are protesting about is justified.
Mm-hmm.
It's disgusted me that
the violence isn't justified.
No. But the protesting, I will call, when it's violence, it's rioting.
Mm-hmm.
And I will call that when it's Black Lives Matter rioting, and I will call that when it's Trump supporters rioting. You know what I mean? Like, just, but the fact that there are so many people that when cities burned, private property, public property burned to the ground, we have over $1 billion of property damage from Black Lives Matter protests. Over $1 billion. And no one said anything until now. Then everybody's coming out of the woodworks and they're having, I saw like this one Christian band put out a statement and they're like, I had to explain to my kids what was going on, that this was happening in America. And they were appalled. And I was appalled by that post because I know that band during the Black Lives Matter riots said nothing.
Yeah.
They came out at first and they supported, like pretty much everybody, they supported the Black community after George Floyd. I'm all with you. I did not like what happened there. I didn't like some of the rhetoric that came out afterwards, but you know what? There was a community of people that were hurting and that felt a certain way.
Right.
And I sympathized with their feelings. The fact that there is nothing, no one, except like some, crazy conservative people out there, no one else is saying anything in defense of the whole that is smeared by the few. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like with the Black, and the reason I'm saying this, and I'll get into some of the nuance of this. The reason I'm saying this is no one condemned the violence when it started. And it completely destroyed a lot of the movement that was happening towards police reform in our country. The protests were moving people towards actually the senators bringing forth legislation and actually something getting done to resolve some of these issues that we do have in our police departments. Violence is not the answer.
No.
Violence always, public support, they've tracked this. Public support after George Floyd went to like something, I think it started before George Floyd. Black Lives Matter had like something like 18% public approval rating, across the nation. Then after George Floyd, it was like above like 35%, and then after the riots started, it dropped to 8. So it's worse than before George Floyd, and it's not changed since then. And this is what Trump supporters, I mean, guys, if you want to change something, if you're pissed off about something, good luck getting anything done now. You just ruined it for yourself.
Right.
You just ruined it for yourself. But now let's circle back to the nuanced points. I can defend the whole still. There's still a group of Trump supporters that feel a certain way, and I can sympathize with their feelings, And the problem is let me say this, but I will completely denounce the violence that took place in our Capitol buildings.
Yes.
So those two things can be true at once. And the problem is it didn't happen with the Black Lives Matter protests. And the riots that took place afterwards. We just lumped them together and said, well, and we just tried to make excuses for it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I had to get that off my chest.
No, I think that's good. So from a simple-minded person who doesn't know as much as like I know enough, I guess. But I think what I learned from 2020, and I feel like it was confirmed yesterday, like it kind of came to mind and I was like, like my personal decision was made that I have to speak up against what I disagree with and be okay with people not liking that. Like when the violence happened with Black Lives Matter and all that stuff, and just the things that I knew were true and the things that I knew were not. Like I should have just spoke up about it and taken the flack. And we just like that is how we got to this point.
Right.
In my opinion, we've let chaos run freely.
Yeah.
And we've let hate
yes.
on both sides run rampant. And we haven't dealt with it. And now we get to this point. So now it seems as both sides of extremists are being crazy because we've let it be okay. And that is both sides' fault.
Yeah.
And it's not okay. And the majority of people are not crazy like that on both sides.
Right.
And we need to stand up.
Yeah.
The people who are moderate and are not trying to hurt people, we need to stand up and say, hey, we have differences. That is true. But we're civil people.
Yeah.
In a civilized country, at least we thought, and I think it still is, we need to figure this out.
Yeah.
And we need to, do it with grace. Yeah. And I think that's what I've learned. And that's what I want to do from now on.
Yeah. Something interesting that happened earlier today, I was talking to one of my coworkers and, we're all teleworking, so we're talking on the phone. And jokingly, he's like, so what's going on in your life? Knowing all that has just taken place.
Yeah.
And then we get into conversation and we're talking about stuff. And I know that we have disagreements. I've talked to him about political stuff in the past. We have disagreements on stuff. But the interesting thing is we were able to have a very civil, productive, friends at the end conversation because we were talking.
Yes.
Because we were talking. Not because we wrote a statement and then someone responded to our written statement and then someone else responded to that written statement. We talked.
Yeah. That's something that I noticed. Sorry to interrupt you, but I noticed.
No.
So I'm not on social media a lot anyway, which is, I love that. I mean, maybe
praise
it's not,
God.
Maybe it's not good all the time. But yesterday I went on for just a short bit and I was like just scrolling through and I'm like, oh, the hate, the hate. And I was just like, okay, that's enough. But what I thought of was like, I know these people.
Yes. Yeah, isn't that weird?
Like, would they say that to me?
No.
Like, would someone be that hateful to me? No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Maybe some people, but like
not when you were face to face.
But not when we're face to face.
No.
And I'm like, that's not actually like you might be angry about something, which is you have a right to be angry. You can be angry, but don't be so hateful.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just my opinion. Like if you can't say that to me, then don't write it.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm done with this. I'm done with this kind of stuff.
We're kind of bouncing around conversations and maybe we'll stick to one soon. But I think along the lines of what you're saying, I think the way that media, and I mean, I don't just mean the news media, but all media has shifted to kind of one place. We all consume different types of media on internet platforms. So the way that we're consuming it, I'm trying to develop my point as I'm saying it. It's not working out too well. But basically, I think because we're all consuming a lot of media digitally, we're reading a lot of information, and the way that attention is gained through online media is to be either negative or to be tribal, to really speak to a group. And man, I just think, I really think that internet media has galvanized.
Are you talking about social media specifically?
No, I'm talking about everything.
Okay.
I'm talking about YouTube. I'm talking about social media. I'm talking about, news articles being online now. I really think that has shifted the entire mindset of our country to be as divided and to be as hateful and to be as, is galvanized the right word? Like galvanized.
I don't know.
I don't know.
What does galvanize
I said
mean?
it and it sounded really good. So I just went with it. And I was hoping the conversation would just continue.
The word that comes to my mind is reactive. I feel like they prey upon our reactiveness. And I have learned once again in this past 2020 that I have to not be reactive.
Yeah.
Like I have to not at all, especially because if you think about it, if you think about social media and the media in general, that is beneficial to them for us to be reactive people, because then they get us to look at their stuff fast. Then social media gets us to argue about it on social media.
Yeah.
And it's just all this like hot, fiery reactiveness.
Yeah.
And that's just benefiting them. It's not benefiting us. And also that we're not really getting the truth because they're preying upon it. So they're putting out things that are going to make us feel reactive, and we have to stop and make sure we have the facts and make sure we have all the facts and figure it out for ourselves. Unfortunately, I hate that. I'm bad at that.
And we're not really trained to do that, that's a sad fact is, reporting journalists are taught in journalism school how to fact check. Like they don't do it well now, but they're taught that you have to look at multiple sources and to kind of piecemeal the information that's coming in.
Nowadays, you can look at multiple sources and not get the facts.
Well, we have a lot of multiple sources that are just disseminating the same information, and it's propaganda. It's not news anymore. Yeah.
You have to find the source, which is hard for me to do all the time.
News used to be just reporting a happening. Now it's a narrative. And that's sad. I don't think there's any getting around that, though, because there's always going to be people within those fields. So some people like to say, like, oh, Walter Cronkite. Walter Cronkite had a political leaning, and it came out in his news reporting. So to say, like, oh, the good old days when news was just news, that's never been a factor. So it's up to us to really look through the information that's coming out, look to the other side and say, okay, what is the other side saying? One of the things that's very interesting is I found out that conservatives are very concerned about what like the left and liberals and different ones are talking about. But liberals are not very concerned because in general, they have more of a notion that they're right on policies. They're right on arguments and ideas.
Why don't conservatives have that?
Well, what I'm saying is it's good, though. I don't think conservatives should lose that fact.
I thought you said that was the left that had that.
No, the left had that mentality that they were right on a lot of these issues, so they never looked to the other side and said, what are they talking about?
Okay.
What are they arguing for?
Right.
But I think that's the way to really exist and function in a moderate way. I want to be a moderate. I want to always have my hand in both sides, in both cookie jars, and say, what do you have to offer?
To understand.
What are the ideas that are going to move us forward as a people group, as a society, as an economy, as a culture? What do you got? But we've stopped that. And that's why we don't have news anymore that's reliable. Or we're not consuming the news in a way that actually is informing us. We're consuming our own narratives. Or if you're on the right, you're consuming Fox and Newsmax and OAN or whatever networks are on that side, and CNN and MSNBC and CBS and all those on the left. So you're just narrative building.
Right.
You're just narrative building. And then because of that, then people gravitate to the other websites and other social media platforms and other things to solidify those narratives. And it gets harder and harder to then shift. It gets harder and harder to even reach out to the other side.
That's why, yeah.
So
I always go back to, because I am a Christian, like the word of God and just being, those are so foundational. It's just, that's why it's such a mess. Like if we can actually know what we believe and know what is good for us and what is true, then we don't have to be pushed by one narrative or the other. We can stand still and we can say, oh yeah, that's a good idea on that side. That's a good idea on that side.
Right.
And we can say, oh yeah, or this is kind of a combination of both because this would work well for the country.
Right.
We can't I feel like we can't even do that anymore because we're
and
like,
that's what a moral structure
founded on anything.
Right. We used to have, it's interesting. We used to have more of a conversation in our country, even when I was a kid, on the idea of virtues. Being a virtuous person used to not be a Christian only idea.
Right.
People used to strive to be virtuous.
Right.
And I think that's something that we should really draw back into our culture.
And that's where the people, us, come in. That's where we have to start standing up and saying, hey, I actually have the good idea here.
Yeah.
And be like, I have something that's pretty solid.
Right.
That we can stand on and we can start like.
And that's where religion is very valuable. People knock religion all the time, and there are things to knock about religion, whatever religion it is, but certain religions can give you a moral structure, virtues to solidify yourself. It can build a foundation for your life so that you are solid as an individual first, so that when you look at ideologies, when you look at policy, when you look at a new cultural trend, you're already firm on the things that matter.
Right.
And then all of those other things are just intellectual discussions that you can have. They're just intellectual exercises that you can practice. They're just additives. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So that's very important. If we can get back to a point where a moral structure is important. I don't know how we get back there, honestly.
I think it comes to
the
people who know what is good. And I know there's tons of different opinions on what is good, but if you truly believe something is helpful for yourself, your family, your community, and your country, then it's probably good if it's actually going to be beneficial. And just, you don't have to be hateful about it, but you can stand up and say, this has worked. It's worked in the past. It works now. It works for me, my family, my community, my country.
And the only way that you're going to do that is through conversation. And conversation being allowed.
Yes. Yes.
And that is something that we need to always fight for.
Because real hatefulness is when you say, you can't say that.
Yes. Yeah.
That if you're wanting to like hurt someone because they said something, there's a problem there.
Right. Well, we have a real issue with that in our country. I mean, speech is violence now. Yeah. It used to be violence was violence. Imagine that. Now speech is violence.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a real issue there. And that
we can't, I guess this is my thing that I have to get off my chest.
Yeah.
We can't keep silent anymore. Like those of us who have kind of sat back, like me, because I'm a laid back person. I don't want to upset people. I don't want to disrupt people. No, we can't do that anymore.
Right. But we need to do it in the right way.
Yes.
We need to do it in a way that doesn't match the way that it's being done and people are consuming right now.
Right. No, that's
because it's not working. You know what I mean? Even if you have something good to say, it's either being drowned out or it's being just added to this swirling pile of crap out there. There needs to be ways that we can cultivate other communities and environments for discussion outside of these platforms.
Yes.
I don't know how yet. I mean, this type of thing is one way. And I'm not, what's the right word? Oh, I can't even remember crap. I can't remember it now. I was going to say, like, I'm not doubting. No. Darn it. There's like a phrase like doubting small beginnings or whatever. What is that?
Don't despise small beginnings.
Something like that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That's it. Sure.
Something like that.
Something like that. What we're doing here is a step. And hopefully as more people listen to it, as we get other people on that sort of expand the conversation, we can grow this culture of people talking.
Yes.
I mean, I was very, it worked with the name, but I was very purposeful when our like tagline is just, we're just breathing. Because that's all this is.
Yeah.
Breath is coming out and my vocal cords are putting sounds to those words.
Yeah.
And mentally they can have an effect on your mind. Mentally you could have a neurological reaction to the breath that's coming out because of our development of language. But at the end of the day, we're just breathing. Words can't actually hurt you. I know that's something that we learned as a kid, that like words can hurt you.
Right.
But they can't. You can.
They can psychologically hurt you. I will argue that because that's true.
They can affect you, but they can't hurt you.
They can affect you. Yeah. They
You know
can't
what I mean?
physically hurt
And
you.
it's something that you can get over, and it's something that you can conquer, and it's something that you can come back at.
Right.
You know what I mean? Right. And I don't mean this to despise people that are verbally abused.
Right. Because I was just thinking that there are people who are verbally abused.
I'm not saying like, well, suck it up.
Right.
Nah, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying you can be the master of your mind. So, and that's where these words, they're triggering things in your mind. You can master your mind. Therefore, those words can't hurt you.
Right.
That's all I'm saying. But yeah, we need to somehow continue to cultivate a culture that values this.
Yes. Yes.
I think we've lost that. Maybe I'm not going to pinpoint it on stuff, but I mean, we've become a texting culture. And then once social media developed, we became a posting culture. And through texting and through social media, we've really lost a lot of our writing abilities. And sometimes when our writing abilities go away, we lose some actual language in our speaking. Our speaking abilities aren't as good as they used to be when we had to just rely on phone conversations or face-to-face conversations. I mean, I know even with this podcast, it's not easy to talk sometimes. I'm trying to process my words because most of the time I'm just in my head. For the predominance of the day, I'm in my head. For the predominance of, even interacting with our kids. You're just in your head. How am I doing as a parent? How am I doing? Whatever.
Talk about being in the head. So that's why another reason why talking is so important, because we can have and hold ideas in our head that we think seem legitimate. And I'm saying this from experience, as soon as we start saying it out loud, we're like, this doesn't actually make as much sense as I thought it did.
And
or we can hear someone else speak into it and we're like, oh yeah, like we have a lot of like holes in this thought process here. So just gotta put that out there.
Yes. That's why I love this podcast format because hopefully, because it's a longer format, people won't listen to the whole thing. So when we say stupid stuff, which is going to happen, 100%, 100%, it's okay.
Oh, it's okay.
Because either, and I love having it, I've seen some people do like solo podcasts, and
you're someone who could do a solo podcast. Can I just say that? You could. I could not. You could.
I probably could.
It wouldn't be as fun.
It wouldn't be as fun. And I would say so much more stupid things. I know I would because I like to rant. I like to just go off. I have all this pent up emotion from all of this stuff coming at me in the news and all this stuff coming at me in culture and church. And, you know, I'm ready to go. But having a person across from you that can say, nah, is awful in some ways, you know, because you like to just be in control of your thoughts and ideas, and you think they're just the best.
Yeah, yeah.
When someone is like, I don't agree, it's awesome. It's awesome because then you will go somewhere afterwards when follow-up questions are given. Well, why don't you agree? That you'll go to places you've never been before.
Right.
And man, there's just so much value to that. There's so much value to people listening to each other. Not yelling at each other. Not shoving ideas and ideologies down people's throat.
Yeah.
But listening to each other.
Yeah. That's true.
So what was your, let's just talk about it for a little bit because I think we have to. What was your reaction to kind of everything that took place in DC yesterday?
Oh boy. Okay. Well, it's going to be super raw because I haven't really let myself like think through it that much.
No, me neither.
But yeah, like I think yesterday was really busy for me, like at home.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't until like halfway through the day, like 3:30, that I was like, I probably should find out what's going on in the world because it's probably pretty crazy. At this point, I had no idea.
Yeah.
And so I like, you know, turn on my phone, like I'm looking up stuff and I'm just like, oh my goodness. And like, to be honest, I wasn't like completely surprised. Isn't that like sad?
No.
Like
no, not at all.
I wasn't completely surprised. I was like, it was kind of like those surreal moments when you're like, I can't believe this is happening, but at the same time, I could.
Yeah.
I was like,
we lived through 2020.
Yeah. I was like,
we just lived through 2020.
We have experienced so much craziness.
We've had 3 autonomous zones in our country. Talk about what you said earlier in the podcast. You said the lack of action of things that happened last year resulted in what happened yesterday.
Yeah.
In DC. I mean, 100%. Because
I do not believe that would have happened if we did not let the craziness happen this whole past 2020.
Yeah.
That would have not happened yesterday.
Right. People would not be emboldened to do those
angry
types of things.
I think people are angry. People are angry.
Yeah.
A lot of people are just angry.
I get you.
And when you're angry, you don't think straight.
Yeah.
Or they're taking advantage of anger.
Well, these were taking advantage of it. I think a lot of the angry people were peaceful. For the most part, I think the people that really, there might have been a couple that followed the crazy ones, but I think they just wanted to have a good time. And they thought, wouldn't this be fun?
Yeah.
And now they're going to say, oh crap, I'm going to be in jail for 10 years.
Yeah.
I mean, like literally, I think in Trump's speech yesterday at the protest,
after the protest?
No. Or before.
Okay.
Yeah, Trump gave a speech before, and he said in there, he was like kind of, I don't know the right word, applauding the policy that he put into place about tearing down statues. And he was like, we made sure that people that tear down our country's statues get 10 years in prison. And then these people go into the Capitol building and they steal podiums and and they're like waving to the camera and you're like, bro,
what are you doing?
10 years.
Yeah. I think my other response, well, when I found out that someone got shot, that was pretty sad.
Yeah.
I was like, that was
16.
That's just awful. It's awful. Yeah. It's awful. It's awful. And then I think my other, after hearing about all the violence and just that it was crazy, I was like, this was so pointless.
Yeah. No,
it was
completely pointless.
This accomplishes absolutely nothing. Nothing except increasing the uproar of our country. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, man. And then my other thought is here we go. 2021.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like that's why yesterday I was like I said earlier, I kind of decided like we the people, we have to start speaking up. Like we have to let the world know. I don't know how we do this, like we've been saying, but we have to let the world know that like the majority of America does not agree with this kind of stuff. Right. We don't agree with what happened with Black Lives Matter and all the violence there and all the hurt and property damage and, violence against police. Come on, people. Yeah. And then what happened yesterday, like I'm just so like, no, I have to talk about it now. Like I can't just let this is not okay.
We need to be better humans.
We can be better humans.
Right.
Like,
right. And this is so ridiculous. This is the key. I do want to I feel like I've given enough of my thoughts on the whole thing. So we can kind of move past that because I do want to get into, okay, what do we do now?
Right. Solutions.
And like I said in the, I think the last home edition podcast that we had, when we were talking about 2021, we're talking about the new year. What are our goals? What do we want to accomplish? This changes nothing. Mm-hmm. Oh. Because the goals that I wanted to accomplish were for my life. Mm-hmm. And if my life is bettered,
right,
my country is bettered.
Yep.
My home is bettered. My church is bettered.
Right.
My community is bettered. My friendships and relationships are bettered.
Right.
Because I focused on myself.
Yes.
And I focused on bettering me.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to do that. 2021 needs to be a year where we bring back virtues. We need to bring back and establish a moral foundation for our lives so that we're solid individuals. Mm-hmm. And we need to, every area of our life, we need to evaluate and say, where am I failing? And where can I grow? Where can I develop? Where can I be the best version of me for the people around me?
Because it's selfish not to.
Exactly. That's what I was just about to say. I was just going to say it is selfish of you to, if you're fat, to stay fat is selfish. It's not that you're big boned. It's not that you, whatever. It's selfish. Help yourself.
Right.
Help yourself. Heal yourself.
Right.
Work out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's not fat shaming. That's love.
Yeah.
And that's something that's not talked about enough is the fact that people who want your best interest will push you.
Yeah. I have to say that like, that's something that I love about you so much. Cause like, that's not, so when it comes to like that kind of stuff where like you really have to be tough, like I want to be that so bad, but it's really hard, but I love it.
That's not you though.
You do it so well. And sometimes I hate it, but I really love it. And I think that's the way it is though with most people. Like you might hate someone who does that to you at first, but eventually if you get a little bit healthier, you'll realize, and I'm not talking about just like fat. I'm talking about like if you emotionally get healthier, you'll realize that person actually cares about you. Yeah. And that all the other people are just not saying anything because they don't want to hurt your feelings, but they don't care enough about you to tell you what might actually help you.
Right. People that see you going out of control in any area of your life. If you're going out of control with your weight and they say nothing, they're not your friend. if you're going out of control in your relationships,
Right.
you know, in your dating relationships, in your friendships, whatever, and people say nothing, they're not your friend.
Right. Once again, a reason to be in a community
Mm-hmm.
because you can't actually do that if you're not in a relationship with someone. You probably shouldn't. At least,
No.
at least in my opinion. But if you know someone close, like
Right.
they're a friend, then you probably should say something.
Right. And that's why also I'm doing this on more of a broad medium that can be consumed by anybody, but I would never.
You wouldn't say that to someone.
I'm not going to say that to somebody
well
I don't know. Now, I've said stuff like that many times to my friends.
Yeah.
And you know what? They're making decisions in their lives to get healthier.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I feel good because they're changing their lives.
Yeah.
You know, they feel good because they're getting healthier.
Right.
And it's a win-win.
Yeah.
Love is a win-win.
Yes, it is. Amen to that.
You know, love, you don't lose anything if you give up hate and just love people.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that the anger and the vitriol that is going around right now from the Trump supporters who just kind of feel the election was stolen, but they also just feel hopeless because now they have no voice in the government. Mm-hmm. You know, they lost the presidency, they lost the Senate, they still don't have the House. We'll see what happens with the judicial branch. And they just feel like now we've already been getting, you know, trying to not say something profane, screwed over for many years and told that we're just idiot hicks.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only going to get worse now,
mm-hmm.
especially after what happened in D.C.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about not helping anything. It didn't help anything, and it's only going to be played on replay.
Oh, goodness. Yeah.
It's going to be played on replay by every news organization. Like, look at these conservatives and Republicans and Trump supporters and all of this. You know, I love how I'm not going to get into that. That's a whole nother conversation. Not going to get into it. You won't get me, social media. I don't know why I'm looking up there, but yeah, social media gods. What other ways do you think that we can, I'll just start with this. One of the ways that I started to heal my mind from yesterday is I didn't consume a lick of YouTube, of news media, of news articles, of anything. I listened to music from like 8 in the morning till like 1 in the afternoon. And then I started an audiobook. I started listening to Lord of the Rings again.
Smart. Yeah.
For the whole rest of the workday.
Yeah.
And can I just say, it is glorious. It is glorious. Yeah. Obviously, you can see that from the beginning of this conversation, you can see that stuff's still happening in my mind, stuff's still happening with my emotions, and I want to talk it out. But man, getting away and just music is such an uplifting experience. Listening to a book is such a beautiful experience. You know, going to another world, going to another place is just, it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Do it. Do it sometimes or all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe the way that you've been living your life
He's defining me.
is the right way. I don't know. Maybe that's the right way. Maybe that is what we should be doing more of. Maybe not all of.
Yeah, not all of. I don't
you know, maybe we should be disciplining our consumption of media.
Yeah.
Maybe we should be saying, I'm only going to give myself an hour of YouTube today.
Right.
I'm only going to read the news for a half hour.
Right.
Or less. I think I'm going to do that because like just how I felt today, I felt better.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't feel like the world was going to end. The world was great
Right.
in my mind.
Because that's the other thing about news is like it might only be 10 minutes of news and then it's drawn out to like 45 minutes of the same exact thing. And they're like repeating all the parts that were the worst and they make you feel like, oh my goodness, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. Even though you heard it like 6 times already, you're still listening to them say it like the 8th time. And you're like, oh yeah, that was so bad. And then you're like, wait, why am I listening to like the same thing repeated over and over again?
Yes. I've
like even because I don't
before.
listen to like the main media. Like I listen to like a different, kind of.
Right, you listen to commentators.
Yes. But even they do it. Like everyone does it. And so you're like, okay, I got the point. Cause I keep listening because I keep thinking like something else is gonna happen, but then it usually doesn't. So then I'm just like, okay, I got it.
It's so hard because it is a way of keeping your attention.
Yeah.
And the news figured that out, and now other commentators are doing very similar things. Yeah. It's hard.
I mean, it's fine because people want to listen to it, but and they have to like that's their livelihood, so they have to have like something to talk about.
Yeah.
But I was just like, okay, well, like I get it, so I can turn it off now.
I think the best commentators are the ones that say they turn off the news at night.
That's
or
smart.
Take a day off or take breaks during the year. Like those are the people that I usually gravitate towards because I'm like, oh, you're healthy.
Yes.
The people that are just in it all the time and never get out of it.
I don't know how you can do that.
That's scary. That is scary.
That's funny.
Oh man.
Yeah. So I mean, your question was how to, be better in the like how to make a change in the new year with this kind of stuff. Yeah. And I think the only things that come to mind is really just to, like I've been saying, to live out what we believe and to share our opinions and not be shy about them and be willing to like hear other people, even if they have a differing opinion. Yeah. And say why you have a differing opinion than them.
Right.
And just be willing to have that. And if they start getting angry at you and it starts to elevate into a fight, then just don't engage and just stop. That's not the person to talk to. Yeah. Because they just want to fight you. They want to demolish you. If they want to demolish you, it's not productive. Stop. Okay. Talk to people that are willing to like talk to you. And if they don't change their opinion, that's fine. Because you are not going to change your opinion maybe too. So, but just be willing to talk to people and have an open mind to learn.
Yeah.
But don't be deceived either. Make sure you know what you're talking about. Or learn. Maybe they know more than you because I usually don't know that much at all. So I'm learning from other people. But then I have to make sure they're giving me the right information too. So that's why it's so annoying and complicated. But, but just live it out. That's what I'm going to do.
I kind of wonder, I might try this out and then I'll tell you everybody how it went. But like sometimes I'll see a post by somebody that I just completely disagree with. And I just like scroll on by. Mm-hmm. Usually I try to, especially past like the comment section, because it usually just gets stupid. But man, I wonder what would happen if I just hit like the messenger button and like called him.
Oh, wow.
Or her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Like what if I was just like, hey, just saw your post that you just put out. Can we talk about it?
Yeah.
Man, like
I wonder what would happen. I don't know.
Probably this would happen.
That's true.
I because the any facade, any guards are down once you're engaging vocally with people because you can hear their inflections, you can hear them pause when they're really not sure about a point, especially if you're bringing a counterpoint.
Yeah.
I think you would get somewhere.
Yeah.
And then maybe, man, could you imagine after one of those conversations, someone goes back and was like, I was wrong.
Right. Or they just are calmer.
Yeah.
And not so livid.
What if a lot of people did that and they would go back and they would update their posts and say, hey, I just talked to somebody. Here's some of the things that I learned. Here are some of the things that, I'm still unsure about. Man, what if like a ton of people grew on social media?
Yeah, that's not going to happen, I don't think. That's a really nice thought. But
no, but what if what if that became the norm? Because we don't allow people to grow. Once we see, and I've done this, once we see a post by somebody of something they believe,
Yeah, they're wrong forever and ever.
they're wrong forever.
Yeah.
We've shunned them.
Yeah.
They're out of the group. They're out of the friend group or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
We don't want that done to us.
Oh, do unto others as you would have done unto you.
That's a virtue, guys.
Well, that's the golden rule. Yeah, that was something that's something that I'm really trying to work out right now too, is like how I really want to communicate to Christians. Because that's where I feel most comfortable in leading people. You know, if you're not a Christian, I don't want to tell you how to live your life.
Yeah. Even though you can still say this
I can tell you
works.
how I live my life.
Right.
And I'm not going to shy away from that.
Right.
But I'm saying that because if I say anything about how I feel about how Christians are acting right now, I'm not condemning people that aren't Christian.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I don't expect you to have the same moral or the same
You're not basing
structure.
your life off the same thing we
right.
are. Yeah.
There's different values. And that's okay right now. If that works for you, great. I'm going to tell you what works for me.
Right.
And if you find out that some things might benefit your life, try them.
Right.
But yeah, I have been thinking a lot about how to communicate to our church and just people in our church community, because that's really all I can touch. You know, how we're supposed to grow this year and how we're supposed to respond to when things like this happen. What's the church supposed to say?
Yeah.
You know, how's the church supposed to act? And sadly, a lot of the people that, you know, when you're scrolling through social media, it's people from our church that are posting crazy things and are posting hateful things.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
Or
at least from what I
maybe
see.
not hateful, but divisive things.
Yeah.
Which usually implies hatred towards another group. But
I have to just say one thing. So I think, maybe I don't understand you completely, but I think I might disagree with you a little bit on the fact that, and this is something that I don't do well right now, or maybe at all, but I really do believe, now I'm not going to try to make you a Christian. I'm not going to, that's your choice.
Oh, you're talking about, okay.
But I'm going back just a little bit. I know that what I believe is it's beneficial. So I might not say, you know, like I'm not going to force you to do anything, of course. But I will say the things that I believe, like they work well when it comes to just the way I live my life.
Yeah.
And like, that's what I want to get better at because I think it will better people's lives.
Yeah, yeah.
And like, yeah. Like I feel like for so long, I've never, ever even spoken out to make anyone uncomfortable about maybe the way my life is different than theirs. But I think that is selfish. Like, I think that I should say to them, not condemning them, but being like, well, I have found that this works well because of this reason or whatever.
Right. We would do that with any other aspect of life.
Right. Like a haircut.
Oh,
like,
I changed the tire this way and it was so much better.
Or I go to this hairdresser because she like, I don't know, whatever. She does a really good job every time. And you would share that with them because it helps you. Maybe they don't want to go to them because they don't get their haircut. They just get it dyed or whatever. But, you know, you tell them what has been worked well for you.
Yeah.
And
no, I completely agree with you there. I'm not saying it for any of those reasons. I just don't want to ever kind of speak to something without, I feel like I can speak directly to Christians in a certain way that like maybe some other people who are not a Christian, a born again Christian would understand. That's all I'm saying.
No, that makes sense.
Like I'm totally,
you can be more rough on Christians.
Exactly.
But you're not, just because you're saying that, you're not talking to like everyone else.
I hold Christians to a standard. We have like the Bible,
Yeah.
and it has standards
Very high.
that you're supposed to live
Yeah.
by
Yeah.
if you call yourself a Christian.
Yeah.
So that's all I'm saying. I'm not holding other people to
Right,
those
right.
same standards.
Yes.
Yeah, but I totally agree with you that if it works,
Yeah. Tell people
tell
about it.
people about it. Tell
That-
people about
yeah.
it. Yeah.
So I'm saying that to Christians right now. I'm talking to Christians. If you know the things that work well for you,
Right.
share it with people.
Yeah, it
Bless
is.
them.
You're totally right. It is selfish to just keep those things in and not tell people about it.
Yeah. Sorry, I just had to rant on that a little bit.
No, it's good. I'm glad you clarified that because I didn't really explain it very well. I don't know. Is there anything else that you really want to talk about? I'm still kind of reeling from everything.
Yeah.
I'm still not really sure what I want to say completely yet.
Yeah.
This is good though. This is getting the wheels turning in my mind and helping me kind of work out ideas. The only thing that I can say is that I choose to love everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a brotherly love. That's not a like, if you love me, I'll love you love.
Yeah.
Jesus called Christians, his followers, to love in an agape love, which is a self-sacrificial love that he showed by dying for people.
Yeah.
And the fact that Christians, and here's where I'm going to get on Christians, in their hate are choosing to not die for that person.
Yeah.
I didn't say be meek and mild and roll over for
Right.
those people.
Yes.
But those people, before you attack them as individuals because they believe something different than you, they have a different set of values than you, they need to know that you love them to the point of dying for them.
Yeah. Yep.
And if they don't know that, shut up.
Yep. That's true.
Because your hate is literally just driving them away from Christ.
And it's unbiblical.
It's unbiblical. Love your enemies and pray for those who persecute
Yeah.
you. Matthew 5:44. I had to
Wow,
think about it.
That's pretty good. I didn't know.
Well,
that
that's the
reference.
verse that I went to immediately when I saw the way that certain Christians were reacting
Yeah.
to all this stuff. I'm pissed off at some Christians for coming out of the woodworks when they didn't say anything about Black Lives Matter.
Mm.
I'm also mad at Christians that are just crapping all over other people for having different ideas, and I'm just love each other.
Yeah.
Love your neighbor as yourself. You know,
Right.
Just if you call yourself a Christian, act like it.
Yeah.
You've been called to be different. The Bible says to be peculiar.
Yeah.
I can't say that word, but to be different. You should stand out
Yes.
and you should be known by your unity
Yes.
and by your love. Those are the two things that you should be known for in this world. And we're not right now.
No.
We're known for the people that we hate. We're known for
hypocrisy.
and for hypocrisy. Exactly. Yeah.
That makes
So-
me so sad.
Yeah. And it should drive us to our knees to get right with God and say, hey man, I'm not living up to what you've called me to.
Yep.
And help me see people through, because God's looking down and he doesn't give a crap about Democrats or Republicans. He doesn't give a crap
Nope.
about Biden or Trump. He doesn't give a crap about Black Lives Matter riots or Trump supporting DC riots.
Yep.
He looks down and he sees his creations that he loves intimately and that he sent his son Jesus to die
Yep.
for, the most selfless act,
Mhm.
you know, that could happen, that could be done. He did because he loved us that much. And he called people who were going to follow him,
Mhm.
who were going to come after him and tell everybody about this.
Yep.
Love like me.
Yep.
And that is die for others.
Yep.
Lay yourself down for others, for
Right.
their good, for their best interest.
Yes.
I love something that I heard the other day, and it stuck out to me. We're not supposed to love ourselves less. We're supposed to.
Amen.
No, wait. Now I messed it up. We're not supposed to love ourselves less. We're supposed to. Oh, crap. Now I've messed it up. I can't remember. But it was basically, we're not supposed to be self-deprecating. We're just supposed to. Oh, wait. Not love ourselves less. No, wait. Oh, man. This is going to bother me all night. We're not supposed to think less of ourselves. Wait.
You're right. Let me say something. You think about it.
Okay,
So,
I'm gonna think about it.
From what I have learned.
I'm listening.
I have learned
I'm just
a
gonna
lot.
look it up.
Go ahead.
Because
You look it up.
It's gonna bother me.
I feel like I have been there where I thought for a long part of my Christian life, I've been Christian since a little kid. I thought like humility and was like, yes, very meek and you like almost hating yourself.
Yeah.
And I have grown a lot and I will, God willing, continue to grow. But what I have learned is the more you hate yourself, just the more unsuccessful you're going to be in loving people. The more you value yourself is the more you can value other people because you know how much God loves you. And then that makes you understand how much God loves those other people.
Yes.
So much more.
Yes.
And then you are empowered to let them know that. You are empowered to love them because you understand God's love for them just as he loves you.
Yes.
And it's empowering.
Yeah.
And one other thing that I wanted to say, hopefully you found it, is that like being a Christian is like bold. It's not meek at all. It's not quiet at all. And like you talk about Jesus, you know, laying down his life and that is bold, but I can see how you would think that like maybe that's rolling over and let people walking over you. But no, like if you read the Bible, Christians read the Bible. If you read the Bible, you can see that Jesus was not. He did not like roll over and let people walk over him.
That's right.
Like he loved the people that were not Jews because that was the religion at the time before he died and rose again. But he was hard on Jews. Yeah. Like he like spoke like crazy to Jews. Yeah. You know, you know, he turned over tables in the Jewish temple. He like I mean, it was crazy.
Just read it.
Just read it.
Just read it.
And that's how we're supposed to be. Not towards people who are not Christians. We're supposed to love them with that kind of sacrificial love. But we're to be bold. Yeah.
That's right. All right, I'm going to wrap it up with this because I got to pee. On that note, the quote is humility, and that's what we need.
Yes.
And this really wraps it up well. Humility is not thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less. I'll read that again. Humility is not thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less. And that's C.S. Lewis.
That's good.
Author and theologian, Chronicles of Narnia. Dope book. Let's try to do that this year. So let's wrap it up. Guys, thank you for listening to this ranting rampage of a show. I hope you'll join us in prioritizing conversation, real conversation with people, either over the phone or in face-to-face conversations. Prioritize that this year. We need to get off social media, take breaks, need to get off the news, take breaks from that, and have conversations. I think that's really where we're going to start thinking of others more. So on that, just make sure before you leave, hit subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notification bell, all those things. If you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, make sure that you follow us. Make sure that you subscribe. Make sure that you leave a 5-star review if you enjoyed this. If you didn't, goodbye. And And we'll see you on the next episode. Love you guys. All right.